Jared Vieyra has had a deep impact on the lives around him. In what would be considered a small town in Southern California, he has had tremendous reach. More than 50% of those who attend the church he pastors consistently volunteer in the church or in the community. Over the years, he has helped raise an extraordinarily high percentage of leaders in both ministry and in business. He has the ability to see potential and is always inviting people to take the challenge of growing and being shaped into who God has designed them to be.
You're a leader, called to inspire others to be the same. You're called to experience the fullness of God's promises. You boldly face your fears. You chart your own path when you need to. When life knocks you down, you get back up one more time, every time. You're forever learning, increasing your capacity to be the best you. You're strong, resilient, you're not easily discouraged, and you're never defeated. You're rugged on the inside, but on the outside, you're identified as loving, gracious, consistent. You don't quit. This is your life, your portion. You're a leader, forged in the fire.
Before we get into tonight's topic, I want to give a shout out to a couple of folks that have been super helpful to us. Around here we've been doing a lot of improvements and trying to get our internet and all our computers dialed in and our internet running and network working. And I have no idea how to do that stuff. I'm not tech savvy. I have no idea what an IP address is. I have no idea what Ethernet cable is. And so if you are looking for help in the area of like your network and setting up your internet and all that kind of stuff, I want to encourage you to give a call to Alpha Business Communications. They're here in the Inland Empire in Southern California. Their telephone number is 951-456-2071. Again, that's 951-456-2071. And again, that's Alpha Business Communications. Also, I want to give a shout out to the Life Builders organization. They've been such tremendous help to us and friends to us, especially in the area of financial planning. You know, you start getting older, your family's getting older and growing. You start thinking about things like college tuition and the future and retirement and making sure that you can retire. And so if you are thinking about that, you got questions about that, you want to begin to make some changes in regards to your financial future, and you want to start planning, or maybe you haven't planned at all, I want to encourage you to start that process while you're young. Get it started now and secure your future. And so you can reach them directly at 909-634-8685. Again, that's 909-634-8685. And let them know you heard about them from the Blacksmith Order. Get your free consultation. Get a chance process with them. Talk about what your goals are, where you want to go in the future, what you want to do, and hopefully they can help connect you to the right resources. All right, let's jump right into things. Today I'm talking about the 10 leadership unqualities. These are the things that are going to hold you back, that are going to limit your capacity to lead and influence people. They might even absolutely totally derail you. And so I want to help you avoid these things and increase your capacity to lead effectively. Number one, I encourage you to take notes. So grab a notepad and a pen and pencil or something, or open up your tablet. Number one is the flawed genius. This is the person that is just a brilliant leader. They are capable, they're gifted, they're talented, they got all kinds of skills, man. They can do it all. They just, whether they're creative, they've got it all. They got it going on. They're very, very capable leaders, but they have a blind spot. And you know what the terrible thing about a blind spot is? You can't see it. And so one of the ways for you to avoid the blind spot, and not have it limit you, is to invite somebody into your life, invite somebody into your journey, to your leadership. Allow them to speak into to your role, to your life. Begin to highlight and point out to you maybe where you might be missing it, where things you're not seeing. And things that, chances are other people notice it, other people see it in your leadership, but you can't for whatever reason, and it will slow down your effectiveness. And so again, invite a genuine friend into your life, that allow them to speak into it from an encouraging standpoint. You don't want somebody that's always picking apart and critical. Invite somebody that is going to speak into it, that's going to encourage you to change, that's going to challenge you to change. One of the things I also like to do is I like to review and take a look at and reflect on the things that I'm doing. One of the things I do every week is I go back and I listen to my own sermons. I listen to my own preaching, not because I'm in love with me and I love my preaching, but because I'm always looking for stuff, for areas to improve. Places where maybe I didn't communicate really well, maybe areas where I was a little bit critical or negative, or just seemed harsh. I also pick up and notice little habits that I don't know where they come from. I don't know where they started. Recently I noticed the last couple of months I started, in the middle of sentences I start asking questions. Right? I don't know where I got this from, but I guess it's just my way of having a conversation. I'm like, right? I start asking questions like as if I'm, dialoguing with the audience. I don't know where it came from. I don't know why I do it. And then sometimes I notice I got this weird shrug that sometimes I do, which sometimes, might not even look like I'm like trying to pick a fight. I got this weird tick that happens. And so I don't know where this stuff comes from. And those are silly illustrations, but I find value in stopping and reviewing and noticing things, because I think sometimes we can get so focused on, that we're doing a great job and we're doing good and everything's great, and there's always room to improve, always room to grow. Back in the 90s when I was bull riding and we were rodeoing and stuff, one of the things that we always had with us, somebody always had a camcorder. We always had a video camera out. We were recording our rides. And why? Because we found value in critiquing. We found value in reviewing and watching the films and watching the tapes and finding areas, maybe bad habits that we picked up, things where things got wrong and things went wrong and things that we can improve on and stuff. And so I find value in looking at those blind spots, because we need the mirror, right? The mirror is our friend. We need to be able to look at our leadership and find areas where we're missing it, where we're not being really effective. And so I want to ask you, who speaks into your life? Who speaks into your leadership? Who's willing to be honest and open with you and challenge you about things where that giving another perspective and highlighting things that you might be missing. Number 2 is the excessively confident leader. I think we should be confident. I think we should be secure in who we are, but I don't think we should be overly confident. And what it begins to happen is that's when our ego kicks in. And sometimes we can be surrounded by people who are just talking about how great we are, how good we are. Man, you're just awesome. That was great. I've never, and people are just bragging on us all the time. And if that's who you are surrounded with all the time, I think you're setting yourself up for a trap. I love encouragers. I love to have people that are positive, that are encouraging. It helps me strive. But I also need an honest voice who's going to help, help me see areas that I need to improve. What happens when we don't have that, when we're excessively confident in ourselves and our skill, really it turns into arrogance, and it becomes all about us. The focus is on us, and everyone else is there to serve us. Why? Because we're so great. And one of the things that I found, in certain times when this may begin to creep into my leadership a little bit, you have those high moments. You got great momentum. You're just doing great things. You're just killing it, right? And it becomes all about you, and the voices around you are so positive, and you just, nothing can stop you. What happens a lot of times when it becomes unhealthy is, for me, it prevented me from seeing the other leaders around me. It prevented me from acknowledging the outstanding, incredible, creative, capable leaders that are all around me, and I miss opportunity to celebrate their wins and notice them and encourage them and help them grow and let them even let them flourish and give them opportunity. And And so don't be excessively confident and caught up on you. Number 3, constant competitor. This is one of those areas that flows out of insecurity, where you are always comparing and competing with somebody down the street, where you're so focused on what they're doing and how you can be like them or how you can be better than them. It can be a huge distraction. I think we should be aware of best practices. I think we should be aware of the people that are doing well. And I think it's okay to learn from them. But when it crosses over into this place where it's unhealthy and it's competitive and I'm always striving to be like them or better than them, I'm here to beat them, I want to bet better numbers than them, I'm missing a lot. I'm not focusing on me. I'm not focusing on my blind spots. I'm not focusing on areas that I can improve. I'm just chasing this other target, and you're just trying to imitate them and be like them. And it can be all consuming. That you're just so focused on trying to imitate them and be like them. We give up on us. We abandon who we are. We're made uniquely. We're gifted and we're wired in a specific way. And I think we should be focused on strengthening that and increasing our capacity instead of just being, cheap imitations. It reminds me of a story in the Bible where Jesus is talking to a couple of his followers, one of his followers, and this guy's Peter is asking, about his future and what's going to happen. And Jesus begins to tell him, like, hey, this is what's going to happen to you. It's going to go down like this. And Peter listens, and then he's like, oh, well, that's me. What about John? And Jesus is like, what is it to you? What does that matter to you? And so, listen, if you are caught up in this trap of comparing and constantly comparing yourselves to other people, stop and go, what does this have to do with me? Why am I so consumed with them? What's going on with me? Number 4, the juggler. Now, the juggler at times can be really cool and really beneficial. Man, they're able to handle multiple projects and multiple tasks, and they can wear multiple hats and get things done for a short period of time. In long term, it's really not effective. It's really not beneficial. It's not sustainable. And so if you're a leader that you find yourself juggling a bunch of projects, a bunch of things, a bunch of interests, and a bunch of tasks, listen, it's probably hindering your effectiveness. And if it's not right now, it will long term. And so find a way out of the circus and stop juggling so much stuff and focus on being effective, right? Paul talks about like this one thing I do. And listen, as leaders, we should be focused on the one thing that our team needs from us. That the people, like those things that only we can do. Those are the things that we should be focused on. Every year I try to reflect. I call it the 80-20 rule. I don't know where I got it. I don't know where it came from, but I call it the 80-20 rule. And I look at the things that I have taken on, the tasks, the roles, the things I'm doing, the burdens I'm carrying, the systems that I'm working with, whatever I've got my hands involved in, I try to do the 80-20 rule. And I say, listen, what are the things that I deal with on a day-to-day basis that I'm responsible for? What are the things that someone else can do? Maybe they don't do it like I do it. Maybe that, they're just not as good as I am or whatever, but they can do it at about 80% effectiveness and I will say, you know what? Then I need to hand that off. If somebody can do it at 80%, chances are they can improve and do 100%. So I look at those things and I go, what things can I slide off my table, off of my plate, and get in the hands? How can I delegate this stuff and release and empower other leaders? And so I'm constantly, like, as a leader, I'm plowing through barriers. I'm taking new territory. I'm starting new things, and then I begin to hand those off to other capable leaders, emerging leaders, and then I refocus again on the 20% of the things that only I can do, that people are absolutely dependent upon me to do. These are the things that only I can do. Only me in my role, like I'm the guy that's responsible for this. No one else is responsible for this. And those are the things I do. And that helps me stay out of this juggling act. And so, sometimes we just, we inherit stuff. Like maybe we have other leaders that are deployed and they step out of that role for a season, or they promote, they move on, they get reassigned, they move, they relocate, their family goes elsewhere. And all of a sudden you find yourself taking on other tasks and other things that maybe you didn't before. And so again, always constantly review, like, man, am I juggling too much? Am I really being effective? Am I really focusing on the one thing I'm doing? Number 5, the materialistic schemer. This is the person that is always looking for an opportunity to make a quick buck, is always looking to take what they do and their role and make more money. Now listen, I believe that we should be wage earners. I believe that we should be providers for our household. I believe that a workman is worthy of their wage. I think that we, if we bring value to something, I think we should be compensated for it, right? I mean, ultimately, that's what a wage is there's value in your time and what you bring to the table. Therefore, I'm going to compensate you for that value, and I'm going to set a price to that. And I think that's okay. But when we're always looking at what we do and how do we get more, how do we make more money? How can I make more money quicker? And, for me as a pastor, I have to remind myself that I'm not selling a product. What I'm putting out there, the information, my teachings, my content, all this stuff, it's not a product. It's a resource. And so as a leader, I try to operate from this point of I'm providing a resource for people, that this would be beneficial, that you can take this stuff and you can run with it and you can apply it to your life and allow it to be beneficial. I want to be a leader that's influencing people and bringing value, but I don't want to get caught up and distracted and focus solely on how do I make money on this? Like I think if you genuinely bring value to something, that you're going to, there's opportunity to make money from it. But the difference in this resource and product is motive. And so, sometimes we get caught up in desperate situations. Sometimes we find ourselves when our financial obligations increase or whatever, we have, unforeseen expenses. There's a downturn in the economy, whatever. Our lifestyle, got ahead of us and we started living outside of our means, whatever it is. And all of a sudden we can get so caught up and distracted we stress and we worry, and then we start scheming on how to make another buck. It all boils down to what your motive is in it. And so, number 6, the flirt. Now, not every leadership role is going to be necessarily hindered because someone's a flirt. But listen, there are leadership roles, and there are certain jobs and positions that if you let this stuff run away, that and control you and be a part of your life and your leadership, it can ruin your reputation. It can it can destroy a marriage. It you want to shipwreck your profits and your business real quick, end up in divorce and watch your business just tank because a divorce is expensive, it's costly, somebody's going to want a piece of the pie, and so sometimes if we are overly flirtatious in our leadership, it can be a hindrance, it can be damaging, and make room for moral failure, all that kind of stuff, especially in ministry, in church roles, it will disqualify you. And so here's a couple of things you need to be mindful of. One, be aware of your sex drive, be mindful of that. And especially as young leaders, I think we can get things twisted, that we don't think with our head, we think with other parts of our body, and we can get distracted really, really quickly. And so you got to check that. You got to check yourself. Luckily for older folks, and you start getting older like me, you're not so testosterone driven, and it's maybe a little bit easier. But especially young people, you got to keep your eye on this. You got to guard your heart. Insecure people can become overly flirtatious because it gets attention, and sometimes overly insecure people can be susceptible to this because because you're looking for attention. You're looking, like you're drawn to, you get lured in by the compliments and stuff like that, and it can be dangerous territory. Dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction at home can be an area you got to watch and be aware of and deal with. It could be whatever. You can be married and maybe your wife just had kids and it's just things are different now and it's just you're not satisfied. Maybe you've been arguing a lot or whatever. You just you're not satisfied. And sometimes this stuff is rooted really in us individually, and it has nothing to do with our spouse or whatever. But for whatever reason, you're just not satisfied at home. You need to be purposeful with your thoughts. This is one of the reasons why I think in our wedding vows we say for richer or for poor, for sickness and in health, better or worse, and there's gonna be bad times. And there's going to be really bad times. And you have to be purposeful. You have to be intentional. You have to take those thoughts captive, and you have to go, no, like I love this person. I chose this person, and I need to redirect my thought life. I need to redirect my heart in this. Number 4 in this emotional attachment. Maybe you're not looking, you're not looking to... you're not trying to sleep with anybody or anything like that. You're not trying to have an affair or whatever, but there's an emotional attachment. You're not cheating on a spouse or anything, but you have grown fond of somebody and you really start walking a fine line there. And it can happen easily. It can happen to anybody. You start spending extensive amounts of time with people. You start sharing experience and memories with people. And, maybe you're in a role or an industry where you're experiencing great victory and there's just this emotional high, and you become fond, and you just have share these great moments with people, and you're busy with your role. It can be really, really dangerous. Listen, a little tip. If that's you, if you find yourself and you're really walking that line, listen, if it looks like it could be a little bit off, if maybe people are asking you, questioning you, they kind of lifting the eyebrow, like, hey, what's up with so-and-so? What's going on? Listen, if it looks off, deal with it. Rein things in. Maybe you need to create some boundaries. You need to bring some accountability in. You need to start asking yourself some real honest questions about what's going on. Because listen, deal with it early. Because don't wait for it to be bad. Don't wait for it to absolutely shipwreck your marriage and just derail your leadership, disqualify you, and don't wait for it to be a mess. Deal with it early. Be honest and back out of certain situations. Number 7, the glory hound. This is the person that, oh man, every win, it was their idea. Like every great moment, every great strategy, they want to make sure that they get credit for something. Guys, glad I did that. And came up with this. Oftentimes this flows out of insecurity. You want to make sure everybody notices you and sees you and thinks you're valuable. Listen, but if you're doing it and you got great ideas and you're a part of a winning team, listen, people know when you make winning plays. People know, okay? You don't have to tell everybody, and they'll treat you with value and respect. And listen, your gift will make room for you. Listen, if you're killing it and you have great ideas, people will notice. And you'll promote, and you'll move forward, and you'll increase your capacity to lead and influence people. You don't have to be reminding everybody of who did what. One of the ways that I do this, and I try to practice this, is really simple. I've got this phrase, right? And it's genuine. Listen, it's not. Don't do it if it's not sincere. But really, to God be the glory, right? And I don't make it about me. I may be, he's the one that gave me skill. He's the one that gave me ideas and strategy. He's the one that strengthened me in weak moments and caused me to push through and try a little harder, and it empowered me to take risks and do stuff. And so when I get those moments, when we get wins, one of the most powerful things you can do is express gratitude. To God be the glory. like he gets the credit for this stuff because I'm not the one. You're not the one. And so to give glory where glory's due, give credit where credit is due. Don't always be looking for the glory yourself. Number 8, the negative Nancy. I'm not really sure why I call her Nancy. I guess it could be negative Norm. But negative Nancy. These are the people that are always negative. They're always looking for the downside, the problem with things. That never bring a solution, never bring effort, never want to be a part of changing things. They're just always picking stuff apart, always negative, always negative. Now, one of the things that can sometimes happen is the experienced leader and the person who's been there longer. Sometimes we can fall into this trap. Why? Because chances are we've tried those certain strategies before, right? And these are these people that are just, we tried that before, it didn't work, or you always find a way to not do something. And man, as a leader, I don't ever want to limit other people's capability. I don't want to limit people's potential, because sometimes I've acknowledged and I've learned that I may have tried something in the past. I may have tried a certain approach, a certain strategy, a certain technique or whatever. And maybe I didn't have the skill to see it through. Maybe I didn't have the skill to really be effective. It's a great idea. It's a great strategy. It might work if somebody really knew how to work it. And so you may have members on your team that aren't just going to come up with a great idea, but they have the skill to follow through with it and to see it come to pass. I don't want to be the leader that is limiting their capability. And it may be the person that sees what you see and is like, hey, I know you tried this in the past and it didn't work, but you know what? What if we did this way? Or what if I helped you with this? In my family, I don't want to limit people's capability. I don't want to look at my kids and always see the negative in things. No, I want them to learn to be risk takers. I want them to dare to dream. I want to see them accomplish great things. And you know what? I want them to go further than I ever have, right? Isn't that like our desire as parents, is, to see our kids surpass us? But listen, if we're always negative and we're always highlighting the possibilities and where things are going to go wrong and all that, like, I'm not talking about just being wise and cautious, but when you're always negative, it will limit the people around you. It will limit emerging leaders, and it'll limit your kids, right? We're leaders. We're supposed to inspire people, not limit them. Number 9, the wounded leader. This, not to diminish your wounds, okay? There might be real genuine hurts. I remember, tough seasons, and there are things that felt like abandonment, and there are things that felt like betrayal and stuff, and there's real genuine hurt. But listen, learn to deal with it. Like, address it. Stop moving forward. Stop ignoring it. Stop trying to plow through things, because really you're hurting you and you're hurting the people around you sometimes. And really what can end up happening is if we never deal with our wounds, we will very quickly become the victims. And if everything goes wrong, something goes wrong, we're the victim, and we're always the victim. Listen, you will have, no matter what your past is, no matter what your experience is, I believe, without a doubt, because I've been there and I've lived it out, you will always have an opportunity to stand up. God will always give you an opportunity to start over. God will always give you an opportunity to be restored. But some people don't want that, because the victim role is much easier. Because if I get another opportunity to stand up, to start over, to try again, I have to be responsible. I have to try. I have to give grace. I have to forgive people. I have to move on. And those things take effort, and some people want to avoid that. So you got to be willing to push past your abuses, to let things, really let go and move on. You got to deal with your limp and not be limited by stuff. Number 10, the informationalist, right? You got somebody that just absolutely knows everything. The informationalists, man, they know everything about everyone. They know things about you that you didn't even know about you. Like, and they're always downloading this information to you. They're always sharing it, and whether it's in a meeting and it's in a conversation or it's on social media, they were constantly getting information, telling stories, talking about stuff. And you know what, like. Stories and past experience, like it's beneficial, it's useful. Okay, I'm not saying it's not, but when it totally consumes you and that's all you're doing is leading from this information standpoint, and you're just talk, and you're not a lot of action, it's hindering you. It's hindering your team. Like, I don't know if it's just like my personality type, and I get frustrated with it because I'm like, I didn't come here to chit chat. I came here to do something. I came here to get something done. We're sharing information. We're talking about things. So why? So we can accomplish something, so that we can be effective leaders. And sometimes the informationalists can kind of run away with things a little bit, and you kind of get lost. You know, like what are they talking about? Why are we? What were we doing? How did we get here? What's happening? And it's just conversation and story and information and sharing, and it's, you know, they think it's great. You know, I look at what people are doing on social media and how, you know, like how there is so much information, and I fall into it sometimes, you know, like I like to share a video every now and then, or an article, and stir the pot sometimes and put stuff out. And, but you know, you look at like this, all the fake news that's happening and all this stuff that's just created to be ultimately just like clickbait, just to get people on their website and stuff, and people will see this stuff and they'll find it and they'll like, oh my goodness, like this is the truth and this is the real story, and without fact finding or anything like that, they just put it out there, and then they get pulled into the debate over it, right? And they've got to defend it, and they get pulled into these long drawn out conversations, right? At the end of the day, sometimes I come home and I look at my social media feed, you know, and I'm looking at my phone, and it's like, man, how does so and so get you know, time to share 4 videos and 6 links and all these articles, and then chime in to the comments, right? And then you're replying and responding to people because they're commenting on your stuff. And I'm like, where do we find the time to do all this stuff? Or maybe a better question, what responsibility are we ignoring by focusing on all of this information all the time, every day? What are we not doing? What are we not accomplishing? So there's the top 10, or there's the 10 for tonight. I don't know if they're the top, but they're 10. And so, you know, maybe you're looking at this list and you're like, yeah, I don't identify with those. I don't do any of those. That's not me. Maybe you're number 11. Maybe you're the ostrich. Maybe you've got your head buried so far in the sand that you can't see any of these things. Maybe you don't want to see any of these things because it would cause you to have to change and take action and do things differently to be a better leader, more effective leader. Maybe you're listening to this and you're watching this and you're like, great, I am most of those things. What do I do? Like, how do I change? What do I do now? I would encourage you, find a foundation and work from that. Start from the bottom and work your way up. Find a firm foundation. For me, my foundation is Jesus Christ. Now, you know, I'm not saying, oh, add Jesus to your life and you're going to be a great leader. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I follow Jesus, and he's my foundation because I've been a bad leader. Because I've done these things that we've talked about, because I know what it's like to fail and not lead well, and he's my foundation. And so, you know, why, like, how is that beneficial? He gives me something to follow. He gives me an example on how to forgive people when they've been these things. I find the ability to extend grace and receive grace when I've missed it. For me, the opportunities are endless. Why? Because I can start over tomorrow, and I can keep growing, and I can keep learning, and I can keep leading and trying to love people well. This has been the Blacksmith Order. My name's Jared Vieyra. We'll see you next time.